Akademiks. Can't ride no
Cassie's lawyer, Douglas Richter, is now speaking up about the verdict and his reaction to it.
You were inside of that courtroom when this verdict was read. This has been something that you have been representing Cassie Ventura for well over a year. A lot at stake here. Yes, for Sean Combs, but for Cassie Ventura. What were you feeling when you were inside that courtroom?
Well, I think there was a lot of mixed emotions in the courtroom, generally speaking. Obviously, we would have liked to have seen convictions on the RICO charges and the sex trafficking charges, but Cassie prompted this investigation by the Southern District, and now Sean Combs stands before the court as a convicted felon of 2 federal crimes. He faces significant incarceration. Not the exact outcome that we wanted, but we are grateful to the jury for finding a guilty verdict on those 2 federal crimes.
I want to get back to what you were just talking about, but first I have to ask you, have you had the chance to speak with Cassie?
I have, yeah. So I had an opportunity to speak with her, as did the government prosecution team. She's of the same view. Back in November of 2023, Cassie had a choice. She could accept an 8-figure settlement offer and move on with her life and sign non-disclosure agreements, or she could file a civil lawsuit and hold Sean Combs responsible for what he did to her and shine a light on his behavior. She showed great courage, great bravery to choose the latter of those 2 options. She turned away the money at first. Ultimately, the case settled the day after. And she went through a year-long process of preparing for this trial. I thought, and I think people who saw her testify, she was a great witness. She was graceful. She shined a light on this. Jane read the complaint. She came forward. Many other people have come forward, are going to be seeking to hold Sean Combs responsible in the civil courts. And so it's not all lost. He's now, as I said, he's never been held responsible for anything in his lifetime. He was acquitted on charges when he was in New York with a gun case, and now he is a 2-time convicted felon, 2 federal charges. The government indicated after the jury verdict was read that they're going to be seeking consecutive terms, and they're going to be seeking lengthy prison incarceration. And so Cassie was comforted in knowing that not only has she played a role in the criminal prosecution, but that she has shined a light on this behavior by Sean Combs, and many other people have come forward, not only about him, but about other people in the entertainment world as well.
Now, I want to go back to something you said, which is when she filed that civil suit in November 2023, that this is really what started it all. And it really is in the civil sense, but also in the criminal sense. In this trial, and I was in the courtroom for most of the days, we heard both the defense and the prosecution say that this investigation, this federal investigation, began because of Cassie Ventura. How does that weigh on her to realize that Sean Combs would not have even been in a courtroom if not for her?
Well, I think it's given her some agency in life, where for 10 years he told her what had to be done and she had no choice. This was her ability to say, no, I'm not going to accept this 8-figure settlement. I'm going to file this lawsuit. And that's what she did. And so she is really gratified in knowing that other people have come out since the filing of the civil lawsuit, and that you're correct. As far as I know, there was no pending investigation into Sean Combs prior to her filing the civil lawsuit. We were contacted very soon after we filed, and this investigation ensued. And the team, the prosecution team, I thought did an excellent job. Again, not the outcome I'm sure that they wanted. They didn't get the top counts, but they at least were able to secure 2 convictions of 2 federal felony charges.
Now, you mentioned the settlement, which, as you are saying right here, that Cassie had 2 choices, which was take the money, sign an NDA, or file a civil suit. She chose to file the civil suit. Now, she did reach a settlement within 24 hours. It was very quick, but this was after she filed the civil suit, after all of her bombshell allegations were out in the world. And yet, in this trial, the defense seized on money, not just for Cassie, but also for Jane. the defense, and this is not a direct quote, I'm summarizing, but Mark Agnifilo in his closing, he said, Cassie Ventura is the winner here. He called her the winner. He said she's sitting somewhere in the world with $30 million. She's not naive like the prosecutors are telling you. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she's the winner. How did that make you feel and her feel to use the word winner when the jury and the world, by the way, has seen her being horrifically beaten on camera?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to your great reporting and the video that saw the light of day, obviously Cassie Ventura at that point in time and today is not the winner. She endured 10 years of abuse where she had to engage in days-long sexual acts with UTIs. She alleged that she was raped, and so to call her a winner, even though she did get $30 million, part from, as she testified, part from Sean Combs, part from the hotel. No amount of money is going to ever undo what she had to endure and what she had to go through. So I think both she and I didn't really take well to that as her being a winner. And frankly, the fact of the matter is that when she testified, she had already been paid the $30 million. So she had no vested interest in anything other than telling the truth on that witness stand. And while the jury did not convict on the sex trafficking charge, I mean, I think it's important for your viewers to know, in the criminal justice system, the standard is very high. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. The civil justice system is very different. It's a preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not. So it is a very high burden. The jury found that the government did not meet that burden, but that doesn't mean that what she said isn't true.
Mm-hmm. Now, his defense during their closing also called Cassie and Combs' relationship, and again, this is not a direct quote, but a great modern love story. How did she feel when she heard that? And I'm curious, has she been following all of the testimony? Because she was one of the first witnesses. She was on the stand for 4 days talking about what she says happened to her. Cassie, as we all know, is now a new mother of 3. She was on that witness stand when she was very pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant. Has she just been focused on family, or has she been following this, and how difficult has it been if she has been following?
Yeah, so I mean, she is primarily and has been focused on her family. She did testify when she was 8 months pregnant. And she is really trying to look forward. And when I gave my statement after her testimony, I made very clear that she was looking forward. She did not want to think about the case any longer. She had given her testimony and now wanted to just concentrate on her family. And she's done that. I mean, obviously, it's almost impossible not to see some of the media about the case. And so she has seen some of that. I can tell you that some of the comments that were made in the closing argument I thought were repugnant, frankly, calling those sorts of behaviors as a modern day relationship, saying that she enjoyed sex, saying she was a gangster, things like that. I don't think even with the jury verdict that they would have given that any credit. And I don't think anyone who actually listened to the testimony and watched the testimony would either. And I thought that those were sort of gratuitous comments that really weren't based on any real fact.
After Cassie filed her civil lawsuit in November 2023, since there has been roughly 70, that's 70 suits that have been filed against Sean Combs. He denies all of these allegations, but the allegations coming from women, men, minors over the course of decades, egregious accusations of people being drugged at auditions, being drugged at his infamous white parties, not remembering a single thing after they were handed a drink, and then being sexually assaulted. Given that none of these suits had come out prior to Cassie filing that lawsuit, does she feel like she has made a difference and like she is shining a light on not just the abuse that she alleged of Sean Combs, but for survivors around the world?
Yeah, definitely. And that was one of her major objectives, frankly, when she rejected an 8-figure settlement, was not only to shine a light, but to give a voice to others who were suffering in silence. And she knew that there were others out there. And so to now see, as reported, numbers in the 50, 60, 70 or more allegations or lawsuits, I think that she's been vindicated in what she did. So many people would never have chosen that path. If you've got two paths, one is to take an 8-figure settlement and move on with your life versus taking the other path of rejecting it, and you might not see a penny, but you actually get to go public and shine a light on what happened, and maybe others come forward. She should really be applauded for what she did.
Mm-hmm. And as I said, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, I had asked them for some reporting if they had seen an influx of calls after Cassie came forward, and they had. The numbers really spiked. She spoke directly to survivors of domestic violence. When she posted on her Instagram, she thanked everyone, and she said that domestic violence is the problem. Has she been hearing from different survivors ever since she came forward?
A lot of the different organizations that support survivors have reached out to her and to us, because she is really, not the official spokesperson, but what she did was so brave and courageous, and so people see that, and they have shown fortitude in coming forward as well. I can tell you anecdotally as well, just that my law firm, which handles many of these cases, has seen a great increase in the number of cases since she came forward, because other people, women primarily, feel empowered that if Cassie can do this, I can do it as well. And so, my hat really goes out to her. I'm really proud to be her lawyer. There aren't many clients like her.
Mm-hmm. Now, when our team at CNN released that hotel surveillance footage, I had reached out to you for comment, which is a common practice in journalism, and you gave us a statement that we used in our report. But I've never been able to ask you a question, which I am curious. Had Cassie ever seen that video before our team aired it?
She hadn't, but we had described it in the complaint, and so when the video came out, it corroborated everything that she said. She had heard that a video was out there. She wasn't sure exactly what had happened with it, but she had never actually seen it. But it really, when we saw it and we look back at the complaint, it really, again, it was just amazing to see how it corroborated everything that she had said in that civil complaint.
So everything in her civil complaint was from her memory. It was her experience, and she had told you that.
That's right.
But she had not seen it. What was it like for her to see it? And I recognize that as I'm asking you this, it was our network that aired it. But to see it in such a public way, and suddenly have this very private moment out there, what was that like for her?
I think it was very disturbing for her. Again, she's never, and she never will get over the treatment that she suffered. If we didn't have that video, I'm sure Sean Combs would have denied that there was any physical incident at the hotel on that day. If she didn't have the pictures and photographs of other incidents, he would have denied those as well. And so obviously the video shows what he did. Her views and the general public views, I think, uniformly were disgusted by what was on that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think happens next with all of these civil suits? Of course, you do not represent all of them, but now that Sean Combs, he has been convicted, he's a criminal now. He was found by a jury to have committed 2 federal crimes, but as you said, not the outcome that you were necessarily hoping for. Do you believe that these civil accusers will be scared because he won't be serving life in prison, or do you believe that they will still be emboldened to pursue their claims against him?
Well, I think from a plaintiff's lawyer's perspective, they're probably happy, frankly, that he's not going to be in jail because, he'll have his assets, and they'll be able to take his deposition, they'll be able to participate in discovery. If he were in jail, sort of like Harvey Weinstein, those cases have been difficult to get any compensation for, given his situation. If he had been convicted on RICO, there may have been asset forfeiture along with that as well. So, just from a practical standpoint, not a bad thing for those civil cases. And even if he had been convicted of RICO and or sex trafficking, that wouldn't have necessarily have helped those other plaintiffs, because most likely that sort of evidence would have been excluded from those civil trials anyway. So, net, I don't think there's really, it might even be a positive, frankly, for those other civil lawsuits. I can't really comment on, the strength of those lawsuits. We only have one of them actually pending, but I hope that the ones that are valid all succeed.
Mm-hmm. And will you be pursuing that one client's claim?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So interesting to hear that perspective. And of course, you represented victims of Harvey Weinstein as well. Now, you're also a former prosecutor. So what do you think we're looking at here for sentencing when it comes to these two convictions? Each carry a maximum term of 10 years. The prosecutors have said that they will be pursuing these 20 years to be served consecutively. What do you think is realistic?
I don't think that I'm really the person that would be as qualified to answer that question, but I know the government feels strongly about seeking whatever maximum term that they can do under not only the federal laws but also the sentencing guidelines. Mm-hmm. And in addition, that they feel that some of the other non-acquitted facts that sort of go to bolster their position that he should be sentenced to maximum or consecutive terms, that they will pursue all of those avenues to the extent that they can do so in a legal and plausible way. And so it would be hard for me to ultimately guess, but I would say this: he definitely faces a substantial prison term, and I do believe he's going to be serving years, plural. It would be very difficult for me to gauge how many years, though.
Cassie took the stand for 4 days, and she testified about what, quite frankly, are some of the most embarrassing and traumatic moments of her life, things that she may have wanted to go to the grave with had it not been for testifying in this trial. How difficult was that for her, or was it cathartic in some sense?
I think it was both. Mm-hmm. It was both. It was very difficult, and it was cathartic. If you were in the courtroom and you observed her, she just answered the questions, I thought, in a very graceful, and I think I'm trying to speak as objectively as possible, I thought, in a forthright manner. I don't believe that the jury disbelieved her in reaching its conclusion. I think the jury ultimately found that the government hadn't met its burden beyond a reasonable doubt under a very complex and difficult statute. And when you think of sex trafficking, sometimes people conjure images of minors and bringing people in from other countries and things like that, and not this sort of behavior, which technically could be argued as sex trafficking. But I think that she, when she filed the civil complaint, she knew that a lot of this would become public. She didn't know at the time.
All right, Douglas, I hate my boy. The chef that supposedly claimed that she used to have to serve Diddy food during the freak-offs, she was set to be testifying, but she never took the stand. Now she's speaking out. Like, everybody's speaking out after the trial. What the fuck?
As one of the actual minor victims to Sean Combs' physical assault while I was employed by him, as someone who was a witness to the abuse towards Cassandra Ventura Fine during my time of working for Sean Combs, I would just like to say that this is a grave miscarriage of justice. And I would like to also address that last year on March 20th, I was contacted by the federal government. They showed up at my door with badges. I refused to speak to them because I was terrified So I was served with a grand jury subpoena that day before they left my home in Atlanta, Georgia. I confided in 3 different people about that visit from the feds. Terrified is actually an understatement. By April 11th of 2024, I was being contacted by Sean Combs' initial lawyer, Aaron Dyer. I have a voicemail that he left and text messages stating that Mr. Combs was aware of the visit from the government and that they would like to extend to cover my legal fees. These are facts. This, in my opinion, was witness tampering. I was supposed to testify this year on May 20th. I was in New York. It was announced. It was on CNN that I was supposed to be testifying, and I was pulled because I flipped out on the government. These are also facts. I want to be very clear. As a victim, as a former employee of Sean Combs, I do not feel safe. I am extremely traumatized. I do not know where to go from here. I did submit my own letter to the judge. I stand by everything that I said. I knew that he beat Cassie Ventura Fine in 2009. I know that she was dragged from the vehicle, okay? I know that I saw her 2 days later at the London hotel when me and one of his assistants brought her a bag, okay? This was a miscarriage of justice. And beyond any of this, I don't really have anything more to say. And I really don't know where to go from here. Just know that I am terrified and I am traumatized. And it's honestly, fuck him.
Well, damn. Now, she claims she was down to testify. They didn't give her an opportunity to testify. So she's getting on social media to let it be known what she thinks about this. The majority of people are still like responding and, you know, kind of we're still getting response. It's kind of like mixed. Some people are like, whatever. Some people are like, nah, this is what should have happened. Really cool.